Hi Helen. Ooh, you are very keen tonight. How's it going? The boys back at school now? Hi Linda, hi Nicole. I've lost my scissors. Got them. So, for those who are joining from last week, I'm just catching up on the... Hi Alison. Oh, your kit went out yesterday, so it should be with you soon. Okay, so last week we did... we ended on the front of page 2, so we had a big pocket at the bottom with a flap at the top and a foldy over bit with a pocket on the left hand side. I did cut a bigger piece out but I couldn't find it. So now we're going to work on the back of page 2. So this one has a belly band on the back, a stacked pocket on the belly band, and then we're just putting a large photo folder around the belly band. So for the belly band we're cutting one at 3.5 inches by 9 inches. So cut it at 3.5 by 9. Okay, and then we need to score that on the top and the bottom. So we're scoring it at 1/2 inch on the long side, which is the 9 inch side, at 1/2 inch and at 8.5 inches. Okay, just pop that down. So use that bone folder. Quick question. How many of you have more than one bone folder? How many of you have 3 bone folders? And which ones do you prefer to use? So fold that over and just burnish that down. Okay. So your belly band is going to go central in the middle of that pocket. Now it's up to you. If you are okay, just line it up by eye. If you really need to know, actually that's not bad. I'm about 1 millimetre out of getting it dead central there, which is not normal for me, so we'll go with it as it is. So glue on the back. And then burnish that down. I still need to buy a new board. What board are you after, Helen? Now I have gel nails. I didn't realise you could use your gel nails as a bone folder. I'm sure that's not very good for them. Yeah, I like my Teflon folder, bone folder. It is quite good. I like my little one, although it is a bit dirty. But I do find, I don't know if anyone else sees, if you burnish too hard, you get little dints in it at the top there. And the big one sometimes is just too big, but it depends. Depends what I'm doing. Oh yes, I remember the one you put in the oven, Helen. Yes. Can't help you there, I'm afraid. Okay, so on here we want to do our stacked pocket. So we need to use some of your offcuts. You want one at 3.5 by 4.5. So 3.5 by 4.5. And you want one at, yeah, the second one's the same size, so I'm not sure what I've written down. So again, 3.5, oops, by 4.5. So there we are. So with these pockets, we just need to miter the corners. Not too many ball tools. So on your 4.5 inch side, you're scoring at 1/2 inch. And 4 inches, and then at 1/2 inch on the bottom one, and then on the second one we're scoring at 1/2 inch and 4 inches, and on the shorter side, on the 3.5 inch side, we're scoring at 1 inch. Okay. So let's cut these off. Hi David. Oh, we've not had any rain today, and it's actually blue sky outside, which is unusual for Manchester. But we have had a fairly nice day. But it does mean that unfortunately I have to go out and water the plants later, so can't have it every which way, I guess. So a normal mitered corner on the bottom pocket, and then on the top pocket, if you just cut up to the cross on your corner and then out again. So it looks like you've got a pair of Y fronts. And just fold it over and burnish, and again burnish. Okay. So there's our pocket. So this is going to go right at the bottom of the belly band, like that. Oh no, rain all day. We had a bit last night, but it was about 8-9 o'clock, so I wasn't outside. Costa del Sale. Okay, so let's get the glue out. And pop your glue on the bottom, and then we're just gonna put your pocket on the very bottom of your belly band, like that. So where is everybody watching from if we've had so much difference in weather recently? Right, so I've scored my top pocket. I've burnished one edge. Now I've just tried it in there. Oops. And my bone folder's just a little bit chunky, so I'm gonna fold that over, just a smidge over, and then that will fit just nicely on there. So I need to pop some glue on each side. Not so sunny Essex. And pop that on there and just burnish that down. So we've now got our two stacked pockets there and there on our belly band. So the photo insert, we're cutting one pieces. So we want one at 7.5 by 8. I think that's quite wide enough. Yeah, that's 7.5 by 8. So I need to trim that down to 8 inches. And that's already 7.5. And then this one isn't big enough. So we're going to cut this one at 7.5 by 7.5 inches. That's 7.5 by 7.5. And then on the slightly wider one, we're going to score at 1/2 inch on the 8-inch side. And fold that over and then burnish that down. And then just pop some glue on there. line it up. Yeah, be careful if you're using a hot glue gun. Don't try picking it up with your finger. So there we go. So that will slide in there, and there you have the back of page 2. You've got your photo mat, your belly band, and 2 stacked pockets like that. I'll just have a quick catch up. Do I always score an inch from the bottom when creating a stacked pocket? Nicole, usually, although I have on occasion, if I've had a piece of card that's just a little bit too short, I'll just do it at 1/2 inch so I don't have to cut into a new piece of card. I just find it easier to slide the photo mats in and out if it is, but it's not that critical, I don't think. If you want to just use 1/2 inch, yeah, you can do that. I think it's just down to your own personal preference. So that's the back of page 2. Whoops. So let's get some papers on here before I get these mixed up. So first of all, we've got the pocket here. If you remember from last time, I've done the main bit. The smaller bits I will leave until I tend to do the bigger pieces first, and then once you've cut them out, you can then, what's left, use for your other pages. So I was going to sit and fussy cut these out the other day, but changed my mind, so they've not been done yet. Now, oops, I've already taken out the piece of paper that I want to use for the front of my book, so I know I'm not going to use that by accident. Quite like that one. Used that one. I think I'm going to use that on that page straight down. So I need to take off the branding strip at the bottom. Does anybody else struggle when deciding which paper to use on which page? Or do you kind of think you might know what it is before you set off? I keep changing my mind on which bits I want to use for this paper, this page. So, cut that off. Now, if I'm doing a page that I want it all to flow, cut it to the right width, and then I start with the bottom. So the pocket is 3.5 inches, so I will cut it at 1/8 of an inch shorter than the 3.5, and then the next bit I'll show you there. So I want it to be, it's 4.5 from there to there. So if I cut it a smidge over 4.5 and just pull it down a little bit so that it matches there. 4.5 and then that one, and I just need to trim that down a little bit. That's 4 inches, so I need to go just under the 4 inches, cut a bit of the seam out, get them the right way round. And I'm just going to ink the edges. Okay. I've actually refilled my bottle of ink this week as well, because it was very, very empty. So, and if you want to make sure where your edge is, just pop that on, and that will give you your small 1/16 of an inch edge on there. And again, if we ink this one, I think I need some new ink pads because they're leaking everywhere. Okay. While I'm shaking my glue up, I can have a quick read of what you're all saying. Sometimes I do just go for it with which pages I use. But on the initial one I did that. Slide that up. And accidentally used the page that I wanted to use for the front of my book by accident. So I'm trying to have a little bit of a plan before I start off, but it doesn't always work. So have you all had a nice Easter? How many Easter eggs have you had? Did anybody get any Easter eggs this Easter? Nobody got any Easter eggs. Nearly put that on upside down. So slide that into place. And there we've got your page flowing through all the way up. Now that piece I might leave until later as I've kind of got an idea for that. So for this one, I quite like to use up the blue of the sea. So I'll use the blue for the pocket and then the wood effect for this side. So I know it's 8 inches tall and the pocket, so it needs to be about 3.5 inches wide. So pop that on there. So it needs to be just under the 8 inches. And 3.5 inches wide. So ink the edges. So I'll pop the glue on the back. And then just slide that in the pocket. And pop that down. You're not, once you've got your photo mat in there, you're not really going to see an awful lot of that paper. So again, this one is 3.5 inches by 8. I'm going to just mark it on the other side because it's a little bit busy on the front and I don't want to lose it. So that's the 8 inches. I just under 3.5. And again, just ink the edges so they all follow through. And then pop your glue on. And there we go. So has anybody got anything planned for International Scrapbook Day a week on Saturday? Anybody doing anything exciting? So that's that. Then we turn over. Now when I'm doing a belly band like this, you don't need to use a full 8-inch piece of pattern paper. What I sometimes do, and I've just used them, is, so that's 2 1/4 and 2, not quite wide enough, but you can just cut your page to size, your paper to size, and just slide it in. So it's just, so I'm going to leave that until we've got some more odds and ends to put under there. I might put that on the bottom pocket. I'm going to slide this underneath so I can see exactly where is pocket. So that's 3.5 by 3 inches. So that's just under 3.5 by 3 inches. And just remember, if you do start inking your edges, to try and always remember when you're inking to ink them all, because otherwise you'll end up get to the end of your book and some of them are inked and some of them aren't. So I'm just going to pop that on there. And wiggle that to make sure it's the same distance. And then we're going, again, it's going to be 3.5 by 2.5. So just under the 3.5. So that one's going to fit just there. Okay. And again, yeah, that's just, so what I'll do is I'll leave that for now. I might get some more offcuts. I will get some more offcuts in a bit and I'll use some of those, but keep all these little pieces because they will come in for other parts of your book later. So this is your photo mat. So I'm going to use quite a big, obviously the big piece of card on the front. So now for those of you that weren't here or didn't see the other week, to decide what part of what picture I wanted for the front of the book, I got 12 by 12 sheet of card and cut an 8-inch square out of the middle. So again with this I can line it up and I could have that as the front of my photo mat, or I could have that bit. So you can see which, because sometimes it looks slightly different, the bit that your eyes are focusing in on. No, I think I'm going to use the top bit of this. So I know that my page is 7.5 inches because I've just measured it. So if we're going just under the 7.5 inches, and again on that one. So now for the front of our photo mat, we've got that piece of the cardstock for the front. And it is quite surprising how different they look if you're just using different parts. You know, you've got like 4 corners of the paper, or if you just use the bit in the middle. your glue on. And slide that into place. So by using that part of the page, you've just actually got a little bit of the flowers at the top, and then you've got the houses, caves at the bottom. Now you could use some of that for the top. I might leave that till later and see what else I've got for there. So I'll just slide that underneath, and there you've got your back of page 2. Oops, stand that up. So to go on to the front of page 3, so for the front of page 3, it's actually exactly the same as the front of page 1. So we have 2 flaps that open out like that, and they've got pockets on the front. So we need to cut 2 at 8 inches by 4 5/8 of an inch. So you've got your white cardstock. Not quite wide enough. So we're going to cut it at 4 5/8 of an inch, and it needs to be cut at 8 inches high. So I'm just going to mark that at the 8-inch mark and chop that off. And then again 4 5/8. Mark it at the 8-inch mark. Throw it straight away. Now again, we're going to score it, and because it's a door flap, we're going to score it on the 4-inch side at 1/2 inch, and then at 5/8 of an inch. And that's just to give us that little bit extra gusset on those doors. So again, butt it up and score at the 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch on the 4-inch side. Then we need to cut our pockets for the bottom of here. So we need to cut 2 at 5 inches by 3.5. So 5 inches by 3.5. And then again, do a simple pocket, a U-shaped pocket. So again, we're scoring on the 5-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 4.5 inches. Spin it round, and on the 3.5-inch side at 1/2 inch. And we're doing that on both pockets for the page. So 1/2 inch, 4.5 inches, and then on a 3.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. And somewhere under it. So we're just going to cut right to those corners. Okay. And burnish those down. So we need to burnish our folders on the front pages. So burnish that down, and then just that small gusset go. So that's one, and then the second one. So burnish those creases down. There you go. So we need to pop our pockets on the bottom. So just line that up. I find it's easier to do this before you attach it to the page. Doesn't really make any difference which way you do it. I think it's just down to personal preference. So again, pop your glue on. And then just slide that down, and again make sure it's lined up and burnish. So there you've got your two doors, if you like, to put on either side of your page. So we need to glue these to the left and the right hand side of the page. So just line that up and pop that down, and then just fold it over and then give it a really good rub down from the inside, and you've got that little bit of a gusset there. So again, pop some more glue on. I don't know if you can hear through I've got the window open today because it's quite a nice evening, and I've got a really noisy bird sat on the roof just above my craft room, and he's very, very noisy tonight. So just pop that down. And there, they close and just meet in the middle. So on here, we've now got a stacked pocket to go up the middle here. So let's get rid of this bits. Okay, so we're going to cut a stacked pocket, oops, at 9 inches. So we're cutting at 9 inches. Now we want one at 4 inches wide. That's 9 by 4. And then we want two at 9 by 2 inches. Yeah. Okay. And then you're right, Lorraine and Linda, it could be a blackbird. We have got a few of them, although I discovered the other day that I think it's female blackbirds aren't black, they're brown, which was a bit confusing. So we had a thrush in our garden, a song thrush, the other day. There is an app you can get for your phone, and I'll put the link up in the group later because I'm on my phone. But you download this app, and then when you sat in the garden you press record, and when it hears the bird song it tells you and flashes up a picture of what bird it is that's actually doing the singing. I knew we had blue tits and robins in the garden, and we have also got chaffinches, goldfinches, and a few others that I think one of them was a dunnock, and apparently we don't have normal pigeons, we have rock pigeons in Manchester. So learn something new every day. It's normally the males that make all the noise. Well, I don't think that's just the blackbirds, Lorraine. I think that could be applied to anything else. So, stack pocket, we're doing one. So we're scoring at 1/2 inch and 8.5 inches on the 9 inch side. And then on the 4 inch side, we're scoring at 1/2 inch. That's our bottom pocket. Then again, we're scoring at 1/2 inch and 8.5 inches. Can't hold it like that. And 8.5 inches. And Nikki, if you still want, Nicole, this is when I only do a 1/2 inch gusset for the stacked pocket, because it just meant I could get it all out of one piece of card. So again, 1/2 inch, 8.5 inches, and 1/2 inch there. So, okay, so this is our bottom pocket. Kinky made to that. So for these two, just because I was being not cheap, being clever with my papers, we'll just mitre those corners again. Oops, missed that completely. burnishing all your edges. And then on this one, we're just folding those in. I don't think I realised how much you actually use the finger on your left hand when you're crafting. So we've got our bottom page. So I'll stick that on there for you. So our pocket is going to go just at the bottom on that page. I'm going to take that out and I'll stick it in the wrong place. Pop the glue on. Like that. And then just line that up at the bottom. Get that straight. So you can see there. And just burnish that edge down. So you've got your bottom pocket. Then the next one, now even though I've scored them exactly the same, I've burnished that pocket, that edge down, but this edge is a little bit further out. So what I'm going to do is just roll that a little bit, even though they were done on the same scoreboard. Burnish that down, and that will now match that. Fit nicely like that. Ooh, red kites. I don't think I've ever seen a red kite. Not a bird variety anyway. That's interesting. It was very surprising what birds we did have in the garden that we didn't know about because they were up in the trees and they were hidden by the leaves. So it is quite interesting. So again, I've burnished that down. Now these were all exactly cut from the same 9-inch piece. And yeah, and they were all scored at 1/2 and 8.5 inches, and yet for some strange reason these two are a smidge out on the fold. So again, just make sure it fits. Pop your glue on. And then line it up. And just burnish that down. So now you've got a stacked pocket where you can put your photo mats in the top, the middle, or the bottom pocket. Oh, oh, where are you going to see the puffins, Lorraine? Oh, where is your caravan site in Wales? I love sitting watching birds and things. So that is now the front of page 3. Now on this one again, I'm going to do my stacked pocket. Oh, love it. So that the picture follows through. So we're back to choosing papers again. I'm going to go with that one. Evening, Wendy. Ooh, that sounds nice, Lorraine. Pufflets. They sound cute. They sound really good. So again with this one, we know that the page is 8 inches wide. So cut it just under the 8 inches. Wendy, we've been talking about different birds that we see or hear where we are. Bet you have some interesting ones over in Barmouth, don't you? So we know that's 8 inches wide. I just need to get my ruler and check the pocket is 3.5 inches deep. So we'll cut the first one at just under 3.5. Then the next pocket should be 1.5 inches, as is the one on top of that. And oops, the one on top of that. And then the top is also 1.5 inches. Okay, so we've still got that card left. Have I mixed that? I think I've mixed them up after all that. Yeah, just be careful when you're putting them down that you put them down the right way. And then the pattern flows. Again, just ink the edges. I'm just going to pop that in the pocket so I know where I am going to. Pop your glue on your paper. Make sure you keep your paper the right way up. Or if you're not sure, alternate your paper each side. So again, it's that way. Pop your glue on the back. And then just slide that in. And just wiggle that up into place. And that little smidge of a white that you've got there will just tuck underneath there. So that your picture looks like it's following on. Okay, birds have gone very quiet now. Must be bedtime. So again, that one's going to match up there. Put the glue on. And just slide that in to your pocket and then move that up so it's level all the way across. And then just do that with your last piece as well. Glue on the back. So what's everyone else making at the minute? Has anybody done anything, any crafting especially for Easter? Okay, so that is your inside stacked pocket page. I'll decorate those when I've got some more odd pieces, not odd, but pieces to fit in there, although I think that's 5 inch, so I could get away with that. That piece would cover both of those top pockets. So I'll wait until I've got a bit more of the base decorating done before we do that. So I'm going to leave that there for till I can catch up on your reading. Lorraine, I know exactly what you're saying about not having time to do it. I think housework is deciding to double itself every day, because I'm sure I did things yesterday that still need doing today. But I'm sure you're aware that crafting comes before housework in all dictionaries. So, you know, looking after your own mental health is just as important as looking after everybody else. We need to, yeah, it is hard juggling everything and making sure, and I don't know if anybody else has, but we've had family round for Easter, so it's lovely, but it's nice when they go home as well. You just have to deal with it while they're here and enjoy them for now. So yeah, so I shall see you next week. Hopefully we'll get some more done next week. Oh, Linda, that's funny. You're right though, you can dust and an hour later it's back again. Yeah, I love that. So yeah, don't worry about housework. True, but I think sometimes we have to, especially if we've got people coming round. So take care everyone, and hopefully see you all next week. See you soon. Bye.